Thanks for joining us for more lessons in English skills and math. I am Tamika Lodge-Fenton. First question. So the equation of a line can be written, that was the gradient, so of course the gradient still remains. In order to calculate the gradient, you look at the change in the y values and the change in the x. So the distance, so the rise over run concept still stands. However, you can write the equation of a line in terms of y. When that happens, it's y equal mx plus c. In terms of x, it's x equal 1/mth y subtract c. Now, the options that were given yesterday was in terms of x. Therefore, let us look at the two ways in which we can represent the line of this particular, the equation of this particular line. As you can see, the c represents the y-intercept. That means where it cuts the y-axis. And in this particular graph, it cuts it at 0. So c is 0. So if you are writing the equation of a line in terms of y, it's y equal 2x. If it's in terms of x, it's x equal half y. And you can pretty much see it. If you look at 1 where the point 1 meets the x point, you have 1 for x and 2 for y there. So you are saying y is 2 times x. And you can see when y is 2, x is 1, and so forth. Next question for today. A circle has a radius of 7 centimeters. What is the circumference of the circle? How do we find circumference? Yes, we use this formula that says the circumference can be calculated with 2 pi r, which is 2 radius multiplied by pi. They also gave you the value of pi that you should use for this calculation, which is 22/7. So we're just going to substitute the values that were given. The radius for this circle is 7 centimeters. So after we've put this into our equation, our formula, we do our calculations and we factor out what can be factored from the equation, from the formula, and we end up with c is equal to 2 multiplied by 22 multiplied by 1 cm, and your answer is the circumference for this particular circle with the radius 7 centimeters is 44 centimeters. Next question. A customer buys items for these amounts. The first item is $150.50, $84.20 for the second item, $190, and then the fourth item, $60.60. She uses a gift voucher for $100.65 as part payment. How much money does she have to pay? What are we required to do here? Yes, we need to sum all the purchase items. That's the first thing. Then we need to apply the voucher, and by applying the voucher, we're going to subtract it from the total. So let's do that. We've added the $150.50 and all the other items, giving us a total of $485.30. We're applying the voucher by subtracting it from the total, and that means the customer would pay $384.65. Let us look at this one. An employee earns $85.36 per hour for the first 40 hours and 1.5 times this hourly rate for any additional hour worked over 40 hours. How much will an employee earn for working 52 hours in 1 week? So let's look at the information that's given. It tells you how much is paid for every hour up to 40 hours. And once you exceed 40 hours, so if it's 40 and a half hours, if it's 41 hours, you'll be paid differently. So this week, the person worked 52 hours. So what do we need to do to calculate this person's weekly salary? First, we know that the first 40 hours would be calculated at $85.36. So we can calculate that. Then we need to figure out how many hours is over the 40 hours? By subtracting 40 from the 52, we have 12 hours. Therefore, that 12 hours is overtime, and that 12 hours must be calculated by the overtime rate of 1.5 hour times. 1.5 is also 1.5. So the rate for overtime is $128.04. Therefore, we multiply that by 12, giving us $1,536.48. Now, we will sum the money earned for the 40 hours and the 12 hours, and that will give us $4,950.88. Yes. Let's read the next question. Ingredients for a cake. So you're baking a cake, and this is the ingredients for it. So you have 1 cup butter, 2 cups of sugar, 3 cups self-raising flour, 4 eggs, 1 cup milk. 1 cup of sugar is approximately equal to 225 grams. How many of these cakes can be made with 1.8 kilogram sugar? What's the first thing you think you need to do? Well, since the sugar is in kilogram and they told you how much 1 cup of sugar is in grams, I would hope that you'd want to convert that 1.8 kilogram to grams. So it's easier for you to work this out. So let's look at some information that we can take from the question. 1 cup is approximately 225 grams. 2 cups obviously is going to be twice as much, which would be 450 grams. And the 1.8 kilogram works out to be 1,800 grams. Now, how many sets of 450 grams can we get from 1,800 grams? And we do this by dividing. So we will divide 450 into 1,800 grams. And that gives us 4 cakes can be made with 1.8 kilograms of sugar. All right, next question. Repayments of a loan are $269 each month for 3 years. What is the total of the repayments in 3 years? What information you see here? Well, they tell you how much is paid each month, which is $269. Awesome. Then it tells you the duration of the repayment is 3 years. Let us look at some of the information that we can now play with to get our answer. So we have 3 years is equal to 12 months multiplied by 3 because each year has 12 months and they're 3 years. So 3 years is same as 36 months. Great. Now we know that for every month we're going to pay $269. So simply we must multiply the number of months by the payment for each month, giving us a total of $9,684 will be the total of repayments for the 3 years. What is 100096 in base 10 in words? All right, let's see if you got that one. So let's look at each digit. So we have 100,000, we have 10,000, we have 0,000, 100, 9 tens, 6 ones. How do we call that number? Yes, we say 100,096 or 100,096. So in this case, the option that you would have chosen would have been 100,096, and that would be C. Next question. In which one of these numbers does 2 have a value of 2/10? Let us go to our place value table. Now, looking at our place value table, you will see that there are numbers that will appear to the right of your decimal point, and those will be your fractional values, and then you have your whole numbers to the left of the decimal point. So what we're going to do today, we're going to put all those numbers pretty much into our place value table and see what happens. The first option we have is 7.325, which is 7 ones, and we have 3 tenths, 2 hundredths, 5 thousandths. So it's 7 and 325 thousandths. Does that number have 2 in the tenths place? No, it does not. What about the second one? So we have 388 tenths, 5 ones, and we have 2 tenths. So option 2 would have 2 in the tenths place. So we could read the number 385 and 2 tenths. Then we have the other, just to show you where the 2 would fall. You have 542, so that 2 is in the ones place, and you have 4 hundredths. Then you have the last number, which is 624. That 2 is in the tenths place, and 14 hundredths. So your option would have been 385 and 2 tenths, which is option B. Conversion. A recipe states 1.5 pounds of flour. So whatever you're cooking, whatever you're baking, it requires 1.5 pounds of flour. Then it says 16 ounces equal a pound. How many ounces of flour are needed for this recipe? What are they asking you to do? Yes, they're asking you to convert 1.5 pounds of flour to ounces. So let's just look at the information that's given. 1 pound is 16 ounces. Therefore, half pound would be half of the 16, which is 8 ounces. Now, 1.5 would be 16 plus 8, which is 24 ounces. So 1.5 pound is equal to 24 ounces. A typical temperature for a freezer would be. Now let's reason a little bit. So they're asking you, what is the recommended temperature for a freezer? Now let's think a little bit about some of the things that you should know. What is the degree that water freezes at? Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. Exactly. Now, is it only water you're going to keep into your freezer? I don't think so. So obviously you're going to have other stuff that will be found in water, or water will be found in it. So in order for those stuff to freeze in your freezer, you clearly have to have a lower temperature than what water freezes at. So let us look. Water freezes at 0. That means the more things you have in the water, you will need colder temperature to freeze it. So your juice and your meat, they're going to need more than 0, a lower temperature than 0. So the typical temperature for a freezer would be negative 18 degrees Celsius. Next question. A school needs to transport 416 students to an event. Each coach, which we'd call bus, seats 52 people. How many coaches or buses are needed to transport all the students? How many can go each time? That's the question I would ask. And it tells you that you only have 52 seats. So only 52 can go. Therefore, 52 each trip, we have 416 students. That means each time you're only taking 52. You're going to divide 52 into 416, which is the total number of students, and you'll realize that you need 8 coaches. 8 coaches in order to transport all the students to this event. All right, next question. 5 friends go out for a birthday dinner. Their meals cost $75 each. They decide to treat their friends for his birthday and share the total cost between 4 of them. How much does each person pay? What is this really saying? Let's talk about it. So 5 persons are out. One of the 5 persons is having a birthday. The other 4 persons says, guess what? We're treating you. So no need to worry. We're going to pay the bill. What should they do? You figured it out? Let's see if you figured it out. So, as we said, 5 friends, each ate $75 worth of food, right? Now, how we calculate the cost for the total food? Yes, we'll multiply 75 by 5, giving us a total of $375. So the bill, the total bill is $375. How many persons are going to pay the bill? Exactly, it's easy. You're going to divide it by the 4 persons that are covering the bill. So $375 divided by 4, each person will have to come up with $93.75. And that is the answer to that question. A box of pens costs $18. The box contains 50 pens. What is the cost of each pen? I'll give you a moment to think about it. All right, I think you got the moment. A box of pens costs what? $18. That just puts us up some information out there. What else do you know about the box of pens? It has 50 pens in it. So we can equate some things here now. That means $18 will give you 50 pens. Great. They want to know how much for 1 pen, because 50 pens is a lot of pens. So 18 divided by the 50 will give me the cost for 1 pen. Can you do that division? What did you get? Did you get? Yes, awesome job. 1 pen will cost 36 cents. So you don't have to buy the 50 pens. You can buy 10 for $3.60. Okay, a student received 8 marks out of 10 in a test. What is this expressed as a percentage? So the total test is 10 marks and you got 8. So pretty much you got 8 out of 10 marks. What does that look like as a percentage? Yes, percentage is out of 100 or part of 100. So 8/10 of 100 is 80%. All right, a basketball team averages 98 points in the first 3 games. How many points must the team score in the next game in order to have a 100-point average overall? Now, let us look at this question. So, which of the first thing, before we even go into the question, which of the central tendencies is being applied here? Now, let me just remind you of the central tendencies that we have in statistics. Is it the mean that we're looking at? Is it the mode? Is it the median? Right, it can't be the mode because the mode is what? The most frequent value, and that's not applicable here. The median, nobody's setting up anything and looking at it in a descending or ascending order. So yes, it is the mean. We are looking at the mean. Now, whatever points were scored in the first 3 games were added and shared equally by dividing by 3. And that gave us the 98. So, we can say for the first game, we can say for all those 3 games, you had 98, 98, 98. The question is, how many points would be needed to give a new mean of 100 points? Let us look at the numbers. So, let us move to the board. 98, 98, 98. So these are the 3 games. How many more points would I need to make this to 100? 2. This one, 2. And this one, 2. And obviously, remember we said we want the average to be 100. So now if I made this 100, and I made this 100, and I made this 100, obviously, I would have to have the 4th with being 100 as well. So it would be 2 plus 2 plus 2, and my 100. 2 and 2 is 4, and that is 6. Plus my new score would then be, so I have to add it to this. Boy, that don't look. So let's put it here, and then that would give me, my new score would be 106. I would have to, the team would have to score at least 106. But let's say you didn't want to do it like that. You could multiply 100 by 4 to give you the total point, that would give you the mean of 100. So if you have the mean being 100, you have 4 games. 100 times 4 give you 400 points. That means you could put in the points that you already have, 98 plus 98 plus 98, giving you 294, and you would subtract it from 400 to give you 106 points required. That's all the time we have for today's lesson.